welcome to the Coach Bryan Moore Show. I'm your host, Margaret Ann Praytor. This will be a weekly broadcast that's going to air on YouTube, Facebook, and the NFHS network. So welcome, Coach Moore.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Before we start, let me remind everybody to please tune in to the NFHS network Friday night. You can also get a free audio feed on hartsellefootball.com if you'd rather just listen from home. And I also want to thank our sponsors, Eddie Pruitt Ford, Bentley's at the Outhouse, Life Church, and Corum's Building and Farm Center. Now you're on the hot seat. All right, Coach Moore, this is week one. Let's start with an easy question. We'll start you off easy. What do you think of the atmosphere at JP Kane?
It was great. I mean, all that we're going through as far as, social distancing and at least attempting to do that. And I was really pleased with the crowd. I know that in regular years it would have been even bigger. But people came out and supported the kids, and they needed it. It was the first look at anything normal in a long time.
Right.
And so, I was really pleased with that. I was pleased with our Jumbotron and, the guys that ran that. And the atmosphere around it was really good. I mean, the guys, Tom Chappell and those guys that do the field and all of our boosters that paint, I mean, the field looked perfect. I mean, the eights looked awesome. And so those are the things that, that I was eager to see. I got to see a glimpse of it at graduation, a little bit of it. And I made a point during graduation to walk out there and see all the people in the crowd, because a stadium has its character with people in it. It sort of develops its own character, and it was really cool to see. So I was really pleased with the atmosphere. Our fans were in it. Our band was great. Our cheerleaders were great. We just got to be a little better.
Well, and that you just walked me right into my second question. First game was a tough one. We lost 31-7 to 7A powerhouse in Austin. I mean, they returned a lot of people. So yeah. I'm going to start with a quote from your post-game interview with Shane Wiggins. You said, "We've got to grow up," and then you said reps are key. So can you tell us, what you meant by that?
Well, our kids haven't played. I mean, there was a shot. This obviously, my quote was before I saw the film, and there was a play that we ran to the left side, outside zone, left side. Matt's favorite play, anyway. And so we pushed the zone to the left side, and everybody in the frame had never played in a varsity game. So you had a 9th grade running back running it. You had a 10th grade fullback that didn't play last year here. You had all 3 linemen that were in the shot, and I thought, and a senior in Trent Wright that has never taken a varsity snap. And I thought, what is going on? Just the inexperience. But my point in saying that is that can't continue to be the excuse.
Exactly.
My expectation and our expectations as coaches doesn't change because of 10th graders or even 9th graders playing. Now, it is a factor. I mean, we can't ignore that. But now they've taken varsity snaps. They know what it takes to play at that level, and they've got to figure out how to do it. And so, again, that can't continue to be our excuse. We're not going to make excuses. Now, as far as the reps, some of those guys that played Friday night are going tonight. We're filming this on Monday. Going tonight to play at Austin in a doubleheader. We're playing 2 more games tonight.
Wow.
So the point is that we need to play. All this coaching and film and everything, there's nothing we can do to show them how to play except to play. And so we've just got to go get reps, and you're going to see our team get a lot better. The kids want to do well. They were hurt by that. There was no moral victory. We didn't say, well, we didn't get the doors blown off here. We had our chances. We didn't say that. We said we lost. We've got to figure out how to be successful.
That's definitely motivating from my standpoint. Let's talk about some positives, though. When I looked at your stat line, one thing that stood out to me was penalties.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot. And for that young of a team, that's very impressive. That shows a lot of control.
They are a disciplined group, and we're not going to accept penalties. I mean, they're going to happen from time to time. And y'all, at some point, we're going to have an after the whistle penalty too. Now, we're not going to fight or do any of those kinds of things, but, we're going to have a kid that's playing. I heard Mickey Andrews, old defense coordinator at Florida State, say that they played to the echo of the whistle. They kind of finished at Florida State through the whistle, and you remember some of their players, some of us do. Anyway, point is that when you have kids playing really hard, that's going to happen. But I'm going to be the first one to get that kid, and we're not going to do those things because, frankly, we can't afford to. We're not. Nobody really can, but we definitely can't do it because we're not good enough to overcome 1st and 25, or whatever, or give a first down up, or rough the punter, or some of these things. We didn't do that. That was good. We had to waste 1 timeout. We're changing personnel a lot because we're really fitting a lot of kids into a certain role, that maybe we don't have one kid that can do all the things we need them to do offensively. So you see us running guys on and off the field. Well, that's because we don't have 11 right now that can do all the things we need them to do. So we had one formation issue. I had to waste the time out. Other than that, I thought game management. We didn't have any kicking game issues. We missed a field goal, but it was a little high snap. We didn't have any punting issues. We didn't drop returns. Our kickoff return was pretty good. Our kickoff coverage was good. So there are bright spots in the game. We just got to figure out how to create more of those.
That was my second question in the next segment. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the Coach Bryan Moore Show.
Hey, football fans, we are so excited to have another year of Hartselle football underway. 2020 season is expecting a great year, and we're so excited about Coach Bryan Moore and his family being here. Coach Moore's a great coach, and he's going to lead us to great things right here in Hartselle, but not only this year, but for years to come. Go Tigers!
Okay, and we're back with the Coach Bryan Moore Show. Coach, we just talked about some positives in the game, and let's go ahead and cover one of those rough spots. The passing game was pretty solid, but your run game, it could use some improvement. So where are we going to go with that?
Well, the magic number in high school football to me is 150. You've got to rush for 150. We ran for 25 yards. I've never been part of a game that we ran for really less than 100, and that's really difficult. As a play caller and really our entire offensive staff, it puts you in a lot of 2nd and 10s, 3rd and 8s, and then it's a pretty predictable down. And we didn't get we really didn't open up the playbook a whole lot. There was a lot that we left on the call sheet, but it's because we didn't feel like with the situation that was at hand, we couldn't do that. And another thing, really, we kept running it because we need to keep our defense off the field. We kept putting them back out there, especially in the first quarter. I think really from the second quarter forward, we had some positive plays, and we made some first downs, and we had 3 drives right there that were really together that went inside their 30, and we didn't get any points out of them, and so we've got to do a better job of finishing drives. We had an interception in the end zone, we missed a field goal, and then I believe we went for it on 4th down in another situation, didn't get it. And so, we've got to really do a good job of establishing the run game. You're not going to be successful without running the football. It wasn't a lack of effort.
Right.
Guys are running the ball hard. Guys are blocking. They're getting after it. We ran into a better group. They've got a better group than us up front. A 340-pound nose guard.
I was about to say the nose guard
that was hard to move.
Substantial.
And then at times, we're a little bit impatient. We met with our running backs this morning, a little bit impatient. We got to be real patient and wait for those gaps to open up, because we're not just mashing people out of there,
Right.
And so we're going to have to keep our shoulders square. And anyway, but we've addressed those things. We're going to slide some personnel around and keep trying to find the best 11, especially the best 5 offensive linemen, because we can't do that. We can't win that way.
Okay. I hate asking those questions, but it is what it is.
It's the reality.
It is. Okay. Special teams play, is there anything else you want to add? Because we talked about that in the last segment, great punts, solid punts.
Yeah.
You missed that field goal, but, things are going to happen. We handled those pooch kicks that
Yep.
they kept throwing at us.
Right.
Return game was okay, so I would think that would be a big positive for a first game, because special teams are like a wild card a lot of times.
They are, and actually our starting field position was better than theirs, and I was really impressed by that, especially with all the young faces. With any special teams unit, we're starting multiple freshmen on those units. The one, Rylan Smothers, that was catching the fair catches, he's a freshman, and I just told him, I said, if you're ever in doubt, don't return this thing, because it'll be a fumble or something crazy could happen. But later in the game, we slid Isaiah up to catch those, and then we returned them across the 35. So we were adjusting, as we went. I thought Coach Rogers, who handles our special teams, did a really good job. The missed field goal, the snapper's a 10th grader, the holder was a 10th grader, and the kicker's a 10th grader. Well, we had a high snap. It was Zeke's first snap ever right there in a varsity game, and Jack did a great job and got it down on the tee, and Crawford just is seeing too much. He's seeing the snap. He needs to look directly at that tee and kick that ball, and he'll do that from this point forward. Our snaps, Sage Smothers, 10th grader, snapping to a 10th grade punter. There were a lot of firsts, and I thought for the most part our kids handled that really well.
Now let's talk about the defense. After the first quarter, nerves were settled. Austin outscored you 14-7.
Yeah.
several 3 and outs for Austin. And then what I was so impressed with was these guys were giving it all they had through the fourth quarter, and 80 plus snaps, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, that's a lot to ask of anybody.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit shell shocked early, which was to be expected. That was kind of how I had hoped we would start fast, making the first down. We went 2 3 and outs the first 2 drives, and then the third drive we completed the ball to Trent Wright for the first down, middle of the field. And then we got going, and we started to move the ball from that point forward. Now it wasn't explosive by any means, and it's not great, but it was a pulse. It was just at least fighting back and being able to mix in some quick throws and a few runs here and there to keep them off balance. But I thought as the game rolled on, we were much better. Even in the fourth quarter with the touchdown we scored, it wasn't all of Austin's starters. But like they had some crossover guys, so like number 4, the receiver, went over and played corner, and we beat him on a route. I mean, so it wasn't like they had just said, hey, here's all our freshmen, go score a touchdown. Our kids competed and finished that drive, and I really wanted them to. I took a timeout in that drive. I wanted it to be quick and not delay the game. But the point is that we were going to keep competing. In the fourth quarter, we had a measurement. Well, I was really frustrated about the spot of the ball, and I would have taken a timeout or a penalty had I needed to make sure that our kids understood that we weren't worried about the scoreboard at that point in the game. We're worried about playing every rep, because right now every single rep, as we mentioned earlier, matters to our players and it matters to our coaches. I need our community to see us coach that way. I need them to see that regardless of whether or not we're winning 42-0 or we're down 31-7, we're going to keep competing. And that's how you develop sort of a winning mentality, is you just continue to compete. You don't care about that regardless of the score, because ultimately we're not going to have scores like that very often. Like, we're going to get better and be in ball games and win games. But when it's like that, we got to keep competing.
I agree. All right, go into our Eddie Pruitt Forward Player of the Game. That's going to be Isaac Osteen. So do you have any comments on his performance Friday night?
Isaac played as hard as you can play. I mean, so what I do on Sundays is we bring them in and we do a thing called championship plays. So I come up with 20 plays. I came up with 19 yesterday that were 10 good, 10 bad. And I try to show effort, lack of effort, loafs, really good things that happened. And Isaac was on like 5 of those positive plays. One of which was the punt that was returned almost for a touchdown, and it ended up getting called back. But Crawford chases the guy. The punter chases the guy, a Division I player, okay, all the way down the field, swipes him at the 5, and then Osteen, who's running literally from the other 5-yard line, angles him all the way down and runs him out of bounds at the 1. I mean, I told him, I said, what if that's the last play of the ball game? What if we would have had to punt and they return it and you literally save the game? That's how we have to play. And so Isaac was really the model of how hard we need to play. And really, Isaac didn't play a lot last year. Mm-mm. So I didn't know what to think. Our Mike linebacker is our dude. I mean, he's our tackle monster, which he was. 14 tackles is what we got to do. And the reason he made all those tackles, and I have to give credit to these guys, those defensive linemen. Kelvin Morris was a difference maker. Dalton Green got his first start as a nose guard and was really good. And, of course, Seth Lockett. We feel really good about that group. And they kept guys off of him, and Isaac was able to run and make tackles, and he did. He was relentless the first play of the game. They ran inside zone. We spilled it. Isaac rolled tackles the guy for 0, right? So it's 2nd and 10. That didn't happen last year. We couldn't get them into 2nd and 10 watching that film from last year. And this year our guys really did that, and we're much more we're much tougher against the run. I was really impressed with that, but, of course, Isaac was the lead man on that.
I'm really proud of him. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. You're listening to or watching the Coach Bryan Moore Show here on the NFHS Network. Okay, and we're back with the Eddie Pruitt Forward Player of the Week. We got junior linebacker Isaac Osteen here with me. Isaac, I've got a few questions I want to ask you, just so the fans at home can get to know you a little better. So, how does it feel to be the first Eddie Pruitt Forward Player of the Week?
It feels pretty special. I'm very honored. It's very exciting.
That's great. Long-winded, but that's great. All right, defensively, you guys faced a very fast, experienced team in Austin. What adjustments did you make after the first quarter to stop them? You basically were outscored 14-7.
Yes, it was 14-7, and I noticed on a few of our offensive possessions that, things weren't going as well as they should, and I was thinking to myself, we need to start try and cause a turnover, get the ball back, maybe do something on the defensive side of the ball. So, I was just thinking, try and cause a turnover.
Okay. Well, we saw you everywhere out there, lots of tackles. Everyone loves game day, but what's your favorite part of practice?
Favorite part of practice would probably be team, the live part of, tackling to the ground, everybody, battling, trying to get a first down and stuff like that, and just, everybody going at it.
All right.
Probably my favorite part.
That's awesome. All right. I have to plug you. This is one of my students. He's a DECA member, a DECA competitor. So proud of him. But what else do you plan on doing after high school?
I'm looking to go to a 4-year university, and thinking about going to Alabama and get a business degree. So
that'd be great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Isaac Osteen, our first Eddie Pruitt Ford Player of the Game. Thank you so much for your time, Isaac.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, welcome to Billy's.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
Margaret Ann Praytor back again with the Coach Bryan Moore Show. Each week we're going to have a special segment from a student here at Hartselle High School talking about student life. I mean, what is the high school without our students? So let's listen to Emily Boster.
Hey Hartselle, I'm Emily Boster, a senior here, and this is what's happening at Hartselle High School. On Monday, August 10th, Hartselle City School students with last names A through K started their first day of school. On Tuesday, August 11th, students L through Z started their first day of school. It was the weirdest first day of school I've ever had, and I think many people would agree with me, just because of all the changes. But after these first 2 weeks of school, I think we really all got the hang of it. Right when students enter the building with their mask on, they must get their temperature checked and get hand sanitizer. Many of the classrooms have been rearranged to help keep students as socially distanced as possible. There are 2 different times that students change classes. First, seniors and sophomores change classes, and then at a second bell, freshmen and juniors change classes. The other schools in the community are following similar measures. Our HHS HOSA members are going to the other Hartselle City schools and helping them take temperatures. What students have learned is not a single day is guaranteed. 2 of my best friends, Julia McMiniman and Kenneth Bethwanik, were placed into quarantine last Sunday, so I decided to ask them how this first week had been. So they've been in quarantine for 7 days, and all 3 of us went through this quarantine in the spring like everyone else did. But how is this quarantine different for y'all?
I think it's more intense because we were called out individually, and so we can't go to the store, we can't go out and do anything, and that's the hardest part.
What was hard for me at the beginning was living in that fear of knowing that I have been exposed, and it wasn't an indirect exposure, it was a direct exposure. So those first few days, you're questioning everything that you do, or if you cough, you're
Oh.
okay, do I have it? It's not I get to stay home from school. It's okay, I need to be very careful. So
with this being your senior year, how does that change your perspective on all of this?
Definitely makes you realize things to be grateful for. That was obviously all of our first game.
Here come the Tigers!
None of us got to go, but since I'm on the dance team, they got to dance before, and I missed my first dance. When I go back, hopefully we can still have another game, and I'll be so grateful if I can get to perform before the game and just watch the game and be around people and even when I'm in school, like it makes me think, oh, it's okay to wake up this early. Like it's okay because I'd rather be at school with all these people than be at home in my bed.
And it's like made me appreciate like all of the things that we get to do as a school. Like not all schools are like ours. You know, not all schools are as, how do I word it, like as involved. Like a lot of schools, the entire community doesn't care. But with a place like Hartselle, you know, it's the whole community like gets to participate. People tell you like do everything you can and enjoy it because it doesn't last long, and like I think quarantine has taught me that it really doesn't last long.
This past Tuesday, the high school held class elections. This year was very different from the past because some students had to run from home. I asked Julia how her campaign for class president was different this year than in the past.
Sunday night I made posters by myself, and obviously y'all, Emily and Elliot, y'all hung those up for me. I made a little funny little video and sent it in the group me.
I'm Julia McMenamin and I want to be your senior class president.
At this point I've sent my little I have a Google Doc of kind of some ideas that I have for this year.
Her opponent Ella Pike told me she took to social media to promote herself to virtual students. Her, along with other people running for class officer positions or an SGA, posted to social media to try to get their class to vote for them. I'll update next week on the election and its results. Even the physical HHS building went through some changes. A new ACT Wall of Fame was added to the wall across from the library. Also, some new signs and paint jobs were added to the building. This year is nothing close to normal, but like the greatest high school movie ever says, we're all in this together. And that's what's happening at Hartselle High School.
All right, and we're back. Margaret Ann Praytor here with Coach Bryan Moore. Coach, this is our last segment. We're looking to next Friday, okay? Week 2's contest is another home contest. You got Mae Jemison coming to town. They're also 0-1. They lost to Hazel Green last Friday, 22-6. I looked a little bit of their film. Turnovers killed them. So what's our scouting report?
Well, when I cut on the film, I really didn't know them. I actually talked to Coach Wells, their head coach, this morning, and great guy, had been there a long time, but they are extremely athletic. It's not really exactly what I had hoped in the second game, to be honest with you. They are, and they'll get a lot better. They turned it over. They gave up some big plays. I thought that they were right there with Hazel Green, and Hazel Green's improved too. There's no doubt about that. But I think that they will get better from week 1 to 2, which and same as I hope that we do. But they are athletic and they are physical, really, really physical, and they're kind of old school in the way that they come up and hit people, and so it's gonna, and they're huge up front, both sides. They'll go about 300 up front on the offensive line, and they'll be big defensively too. The good news is that schematically they're going to be very similar to Austin as far as the front, mostly the coverage stuff. So that's good because our young group needs that. They need some carryover. That helps us in preparation. So we've gotten a lot of film on it. It's nice to be able to see an opponent. With the Austin game, there's a lot of unknowns. What will they do? And that sort of thing. So it's nice to have a true scouting report at this point.
Okay, that's great. Personnel changes. We have a positive coming through there. EJ's back next week.
Yeah, the plan is that he's back Friday. That's not a done deal, but we are very hopeful. We're obviously getting closer to that. I think he would be a shot of energy, for our players, and his toughness and everything that goes with that. I think that he would be a real bright spot for us, so we're hopeful.
That's great. Okay, we're going to finish this up with the Eddie Pruitt fan question of the week. This is always a question that you can email into us through our NFHS network, or you can use that phone number that we had at the first ball game that I don't have with me today, but I will get that out to you. We'll get that out to you on social media, how to contact us. But the one I got this week was, kids are getting quarantined left and right because of COVID exposure. How are you and other area coaches dealing with this? It's got to be frustrating.
Well, every day's a new day. It's a new guideline. It's a new regulation, and obviously, I love football and want to win as much as anybody, but we can't put the health of a player at stake, or coach, or their families. And so with that, we have to follow the guidelines. And it can be, doesn't matter if it's 6 o'clock on Friday night. If a kid needs to quarantine, he has to. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We have to send that kid home. And, we had that experience Friday night. That is a tough conversation with a kid that's dressed and ready to play. And you have to tell them you have to undress and you have to go home.
You're not sick, but you're going to have to go home.
You can't even come to the game. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, 40 plus 50 practices that go into getting to game one, and you tell them they have to go home. And one of three, key players in the rotation guys for us. And it's only, I hate to say it, and I don't mean to be negative, but it's going to get worse.
Right.
As we continue to be around each other, there's no way around it. You're going to be exposed. And so I told our coaches and our kids and hopefully our teachers too, we've got to do everything that we can in the field house. We're never together more than 10 minutes. We've talked about that before, but we move and rotate. We have to, because I have to be able to show, basically through my documentation of my practice planning and film study, this is what we did, and this is how I know that we didn't have a first contact issue. But it's going to continue to happen. We can't make excuses about it. Did it affect our game plan a little? I mean, we had some 2 quarterback sets that we were going to run, and we weren't able to do that. We're going to run those in the future. We had a package, multiple packages, for other guys that we just weren't able to do. But again, we've got to overcome that. I don't know what how to overcome this year, but I know long term, I'm going to look back on 2020 and say, we had to be the most flexible. We had to adapt and overcome more than any year ever. And so it's going to make us appreciate some continuity and consistency within the program. So in the future, when all this is gone, it's going to make us better coaches. It's going to make the kids be able to overcome adversity better. And, I think that's, in my opinion, God's way of making me understand, hey, you're going to have, it's not always going to be this perfect way, routine. You can't always live in a bubble. You're going to have to adapt and overcome. And I think our staff is doing a great job of that. We're doing everything we can to, A, keep kids safe, and B, have a plan when kids aren't. And when coaches aren't. I said yesterday at the Sunday meeting, what if I'm out? Like, I have two kids and another one that's in, it could happen.
And your wife's here.
And my wife's here. It could happen to all of us. And we have to have a plan for that. And never have I had a plan for me not being there. I can tell you that. So, but it's a new day. It's a new time. The ones that can adapt and change are the ones that are going to be successful through this tough year. But the ones that are stuck in their ways and just can't get through it and make excuses about it, the ones that can't do it. And we're not going to do that.
Well, that's a great answer. And thank you so much for your time. I look forward to talking to you after a big win next week.
Yep.
Or this week.
For sure.
We'll talk to you next Monday. And thanks. This has been the Coach Bryan Moore Show. Margaret Ann Praytor. Coach Bryan Moore. We'll see you next week.
Hey, football fans, we are so excited to have another year of Hartselle football underway. 2020 season is expecting a great year, and we're so excited about Coach Bryan Moore and his family being here. Coach Moore's a great coach, and he's going to lead us to great things right here in Hartselle, but not only this year, but for years to come. Go Tigers!
And just a reminder, make sure to tune in every Friday night at 6:30 to the NFHS Network to catch our broadcast guys, David Evans, Mark Mizell, Shane Wiggins, Brad Sheets, and David Robinson, all bringing you live action from JP Kane Stadium.